At the time of the development of the MiG-23 prototype, Artyom Mikoyan had been given the title of General Designer, a rare honor in the Soviet aviation hierarchy. It meant that he not only had the authority to guide the development work of the airframe of any new aircraft, but all of the subsystems as well. He was therefore completely answerable for the eventual performance of any fighter aircraft developed under his control. It was a position of great responsibility, but also one of great power. The nomination to the position of General Designer to any design bureau was considered and approved by the Central Committee of the Communist Party. Even the minister responsible for the aircraft industry could not dismiss a general designer. Such a decision could normally be taken only at the level of the Politburo. In 1971, the MiG-23 became fully operational with the Soviet Air Force. It was now the frontal fighter, theoretically replacing the MiG-21. But because of the large numbers involved and the long replacement time, MiG-21s remained in service for another 15 years. Only about 150 of the original model were built. As the aircraft was supplied to the Air Force, it was continuously modernized, with several model updates introducing higher engine thrust or more sophisticated electronic equipment. Deficiencies in the first months of operational service led to the introduction of the MiG-23M, with a Tumansky engine producing 27,500 pounds of thrust. The nose cone had to be modified to house radar with a larger antenna, 26 inches in diameter. The weapons system was constantly evolving as missile technology became more sophisticated. Soviet pilots were used to the high landing and takeoff speeds of the MiG-21. The new variable geometry system of the MiG-23 offered much better handling qualities at low speeds. Given the complexity of the variable geometry system, the transition from straight to the swept wing positions was very smooth. The weapon system on the MiG-23 was a major advance on that of the MiG-21. It had to meet the demand of the Soviet Air Force for beyond visual range capability. A pair of Apex air-to-air missiles were guided by a Sapphire radar system with a detection range of 80 kilometers and a tracking range of 55 kilometers. Whereas Western designers at the time depended heavily on radar, the Soviet Air Force believed in supplementing radar with infrared guidance systems. They stood a better chance in air combat against increasingly sophisticated electronic countermeasures, and the best of both systems could be used to track the target. A normal weapon load would consist of one semi-active radar homing missile and one infrared missile. It would also contain 2 or 4 close-range dogfight missiles. Initially, these were copies of the American Sidewinder, but later they were replaced by a Soviet design with better performance. The MiG-23 also had a double-barreled 23mm cannon mounted under the center line of the fuselage. It was a formidable weapons package. A two-seater version, the MiG-23 was introduced to train new pilots. Visibility for the instructor in the rear cockpit was poor, so it was fitted with a simple periscope made of two mirrors. The was virtually identical with the standard single-seater, except that it had less electronic equipment. The dual control system allowed for the instructor to take over at any time. The controls in the rear cockpit would automatically override those of the student in the front. The instructor could also control the ejection of both seats. Unlike Western countries, most of which have 3 separate military services, the Soviet Union had 5. In these post-Soviet days, Russia maintains the same system. It has an army, a navy, an air force, and 2 others. One is the Strategic Missile Force, with intercontinental ballistic missiles, and a missile attack warning system. The other is the Air Defense Force, which combines ground surveillance and a radar detection network with surface-to-air missile units and fighter interceptor air wings. The MiG-23P was a dedicated air defense version which entered the service with the Air Defense Forces. The P stands for Перехватчик, meaning interceptor. Traditionally, the Soviet Air Force depended heavily on ground intercept control stations. The Air Defense Force has the same dependence on ground control. The ground stations transmit guidance commands directly to the onboard systems of the interceptor, steering it into position to lock its radar onto the target. The terrain of the former Soviet Union occupies 1/6 of all the land on the planet Earth. It extends over 11 time zones from east to west. It runs from the cold of the Arctic Ocean in the north to the hottest deserts of Central Asia. It is a vast area to defend. In the Air Force, tactical aviation, or frontal aviation as it has been called since the Great Patriotic War, is organized into air armies assigned to specific military districts. The Air Force of the Moscow Military District alone is responsible for an area that runs 600 miles from the border of Belarus in the west to the Ural Mountains in the east.